Oh, hello. I've been doing a little bit more research into Barack Obama's early childhood, trying to understand where he gets some of his ideas from, where his ideology was formed. Many Americans have fought and died to prevent Marxist, communist ideology from spreading over the world. Unfortunately, it seems that Barack Obama was fed a steady diet of this right at home, not only by his two fathers that were Muslims, but also by his own mother and his grandparents. Barack Obama has claimed that his mother was a Christian from Kansas. Nothing could be further from the truth. Barack Obama, speaking of his mother, said that she was the dominant figure in my formative years. The values she taught me continue to be my touchstone when it comes to how I go about the world of politics. For my mother, organized religion too often dressed up closed-mindedness in the garb of piety, cruelty and oppression in the cloak of righteousness. He then goes on to say, I was not raised in a religious household. My mother's own experiences only reinforced this inherited skepticism. Her memories of the Christians who populated her youth were not fond ones. So Barack Obama is admitting that he was not raised in a religious Christian household by his mother. Stanley Ann Dunham, Barack's mother, was born in Leavenworth, Kansas in 1942. We've all heard the story of Barack Obama claiming that his grandfather joined the Army the day after Pearl Harbor was attacked. Well, the truth is that his grandparents lived in Hawaii, that they were Hawaiian citizens, and that immediately following the Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor, they moved to Kansas, right in the middle of the heartland of the country. And then his grandfather enrolled in the Army on June 18th of 1942. In November of that year, Stanley Ann Dunham was born in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Her father always wanted a son, and so her mother named her after her father. The family, following the war, moved to Texas. They moved to California. They moved to the state of Washington. And there was a brand new high school being built on Mercer Island in the 1950s. And the Dunhams thought it would be an excellent place to educate their daughter, and so they moved to Mercer Island, an upscale community on an island in the middle of Lake Washington. In 1955, the House Un-American Activities Subcommittee learned that the school had been infiltrated by the Communist Party. John Stenhouse, who was the chairman of the Mercer Island School Board, testified that he had been a member of the Communist Party, and many of the teachers that were at that school were Marxists. Two of Ann Dunham's teachers, Jim Wickerman and Val Fupert, were active Marxists who managed to brainwash many of the students in that school before they were outed. Even the school aisle that ran between their two classrooms was known as Anarchy Alley. And one of those students that was brainwashed was Ann Dunham. These teachers had these students reading the Communist Manifesto, taught them to question all authority, to question religion and religious values, to question the family unit, to question all kinds of social values. And so at the time, Ann Dunham, as a protest against society, decided that she would only date African American males. And she also, according to her best friend in high school, Maxine Box, stated that she was an ardent atheist and that she would debate atheism with anybody who wanted to challenge her views. That she knew everything about atheism and she would argue the point with anyone because she was always challenging, always arguing, always comparing. You can well imagine after the investigation at the school that many of the parents of those students were outraged. But Ann Dunham's parents were not, because while living there, they had decided to join the East Shore Unitarian Church in nearby Bellevue, Washington. The church was known at the time as the Little Red Church on the Hill. Why? Because they taught Marxist theology at that church. The same theology, basically, that was taught by Reverend Wright at the Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago. And so this would explain why Barack Obama did not think that his church was all that unusual in their teachings. He had been fed a steady diet of this stuff from his mother and from his grandparents his whole life. Following Stanley Ann's graduation from high school, her parents were moving to Hawaii. And even though she was admitted at the University of Chicago, or I should say accepted there, they thought that her safety was more important. And so they moved her with them to Hawaii, not realizing her tendencies. And so while she was attending the University of Hawaii in a Russian language class, she met Barack Hussein Obama Sr., who had won a scholarship to the University of Hawaii and came here from Kenya. And so there you have it. These are the influences which Barack Obama had against his favor from the early time of his youth. His mother being not a Christian, but being a confirmed atheist and a Marxist, and his grandparents who learned this Marxist theology from the Unitarian Church all helped to form his Marxist ideology. Thanks for listening.